Station.
Okay, thank you. You'll know when it happens.
Thank you.
You ready?
Okay, we are ready when you are.
Okay. I'll call this meeting to order. It's the Seward City Council on Monday, August 14th at 7 p.m. Deputy Chief Schaefermeyer, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Okay, roll call. Barnwell.
Here.
DeMoss.
Here.
Calhoun.
Here.
Osenga.
Here.
Finch.
Here.
Wells is excused, and Mayor McClure.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, we're at citizen comments on any subject except items scheduled for public hearing. There actually are no public hearings tonight, so you can talk about anything you want. You get 3 minutes. This is a total of 36 minutes, and if you're signed in, you'll be called in order, and then after that, if there's time, just by raising your hand, you can come up. What we'll need you to do is give your name and if you live inside or outside the city limits when you come and sit there to speak. Mr. Clerk, who do we have?
So first on the list is Selena Soto.
Hi everyone, Selena Soto, Inside City Limits. I wanted to give some background information on Resolution 2023-095. I currently work for the City of Seward in the Community Development Department as a planning assistant / GIS technician. And due to a combination of things, such as my mental health and wanting to be closer to family, my partner and I have decided to move back to the lower 48 at the end of this month. I really love this job where I have been able to help out multiple departments with their GIS data and have been able to finish some major projects. I originally started out as a temp scanning and digitizing files for community development in October of 2021. And then I switched to a full-time employee as a planning assistant, which then led to the GIS technician position. Within less than 2 years, I have been able to reformat the municipal lands management plan, which included creating over 80 maps. And then I also created multiple online maps for the city cemetery and private cemeteries, which I showed to you guys earlier in the year. And then I've also attached as-built documents to public works data, and I've been able to create custom maps for different projects and departments, such as the new conditional use permits mapping application, a heat map for the fire department, and maintenance maps for Parks and Rec. I would really love the opportunity to keep working on and improving what I have started with the GIS system here at the City of Seward, as I know we have more GIS projects that need to be accomplished in the next few years, such as creating a better utility network and a right-of-way and easement mapping solution. By approving this resolution, it would allow me to continue working with such a great team remotely and finish more projects that could potentially be delayed or be more expensive if contracted out to another company. Due to PERS not allowing me to work remotely for the city outside of the state of Alaska, working under a contracted position is the only option to continue working with the city. The rate that is established in the resolution is similar to what I make now, and such that the rate now includes those items that wouldn't be provided by the city, such as medical insurance, and then the self-employment tax, which is at like 15.3% right now, and the Kenai Borough tax is 7%, and just like other taxes. I really hope you consider passing Resolution 2023-095, as I really do want to continue working for the city remotely and continue finishing the GIS projects that I have started. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Kevin Dunham.
Kevin Dunham, outside the city limits. I want to talk again about the sale to Homer and briefly touch on the supermajority and why it's a bad idea. Chugach rates are almost half for residential of what Homer rates are. With Homer, they're going to freeze our rates for 3 years and then they're going to go up. They'll actually already go up because we're going to do our rate case and have an increase. Chugach could almost double their residential rate and still beat Homer's. The vast majority of the meters in our area are residential meters. That means that Vox Populi, the voice of the people. It was brought up to me, or brought up in the last council meeting, that several of you have had, the majority of the people that have talked to you have been pro-sale to Homer. I have had just the absolute opposite. I've had lots of calls, people calling me, and they're saying just the opposite. So the majority of your ratepayers here in town and electrical consumers are going to see a rate increase. You really need to take that into consideration. As far as this thing tonight, of Action Memorandum 2023-012, you could put CEA in front of every single one of those line items. Chugach has done a wonderful job, has been a partner of Seward ever since the line went in. They've never hurt us in any way. I don't really know where the bad feelings came from. Chugach has 90 megawatts of hydro available. Talk about forward looking, they're the ones that push so hard for Cooper Lake. They own the entire thing. Eklutna, they own 70% of. They own 56% of Bradley Lake, 56% of the battery storage system that was put in Soldotna. Gas, they own 70% of the gas field at Beluga. They have firm commitments, and that gas is going to last until 2030 sometime, and they'll keep drilling wells. They are in great shape. Chugach absolutely agrees that this generation plant here needs to stay in service forever. They've come right out and said that. Again, Vox Populi, the voice of the people, says we need to stop that.
Thank you. Mr.
Greg Haas.
Good evening. My name is Greg Haas. I live outside of city limits, and I'm here just to make a quick comment on Seward City Tours requesting to purchase property. I've been pretty quiet since we made a concerted effort to look at a community center some months ago, and we've ultimately cemented the fact that this is a very popular piece of land that the city owns, and it's very valuable to the residents. I'd like to recommend that you do not pursue selling this land just by virtue of the popularity and the interest. We definitely talked last spring, winter, about some reasons that maybe we weren't ready to make that investment and to look at it down the road. Holding that land for the residents of the Seward is definitely in our best interest. One reason that I really wanted to come and talk about it tonight, regardless of seeing this, I'd actually heard something that Mike had shared when he talked about the differential in the recent vote on the electric department being at 19%, being something that was helping to understand what the motivation was. And I thought about the surveys that we did, and those spoke and those were in the 50 and 60 percentile differential between those who were in favor and those who were opposed. And I liked quantifying those things. There's a lot of anecdotes, a lot of good stories. My summer has been spent stopped along trails with people asking me, where are we at on getting a community center? And what are we doing? And we're talking about simplifying the effort. We're talking about finding out what needs are. But really the focus that we've gotten down to is that it's definitely something that is in our future, and it's in the vision of the residents, the people who want to invest and come here, the people who want to build houses, the dual income families, to recruit them and find a way to come stay here and grow their families here. The young folks who I meet in the businesses that I'm in want to see that Seward can be good for the youth and good for the evenings, but ultimately every generation of Seward has made comments to me in favor of getting a community center, and we've established that location, proximity to the schools, there is no healthier spot for our community. Just ask you to keep a dialogue when you all are ready to hear and engage from what broader partners nonprofits and businesses around the state who would like to invest in Seward, would like to come down and help us build some sort of facility, some sort of walking track, something that can reach the community, something that can bring business to Seward at times of year where it's pretty quiet. I'd ask you to help us and give us that high sign. Let us know that you want to set the land aside for a community center, and you'll be surprised about the volume and the interest that's out there. Those people are willing and waiting, and it's the beauty of the decision and opportunity that you'll have. So again, I ask you to hold that land for the future of Seward, and something that we already have a good vision of, and something that we can do good for our various residents. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Skip Ryerson.
Skip Ryerson, it's inside city limits. Well, the last couple of weeks, we've had some interesting meetings here at council, and I wanted to talk to council and our citizens who are hopefully watching today. We get about 150 or so citizens that seem to watch the YouTube. And I want to make sure that we all appreciate the freedom that we have, the freedom to be able to come here and talk to you folks and exercise a good dialogue. And I just want to make sure that our citizens and council alike know that there's no room for the lack of decorum in our society. Calling out our elected officials in newspaper or verbally or otherwise is unacceptable in the community that I've raised my kids in. And I would hope that we can continue this high level of respect for one another. I've also works both ways. We've had council members tell us that this election coming up, it's nothing personal, but I would caution everybody, it's starting to get personal. Calling out people from the dais is not appropriate. So it does work both ways. Unfortunately, you folks take the brunt of most of the folks that come up here. And for that, I thank you for your patience in that regard. So just want to mention that to our community, and please be respectful going forward. A couple of comments on the today's agenda. Just wanted to make a notation for a change. I didn't get a chance to edit a quote that was made in the Electrical Ad Hoc Committee minutes, and I was quoted as saying that the electrification of cruise ship dock is only 12 minutes and $12 million, and that wasn't what was said. I said it was $12 million per berth. So if we can correct that, and I think Electric Director Montgomery indicated that that would also cost another $3 to $5 million to bring power to that dock. So at a minimum, $24 million. I am asking that you reconsider the management agreement renewal with Providence. At a minimum, revert back to the previous language on the annual fixed periodic fee until we have a chance to really understand what the impact of that might be for our community. And last, I was hoping Mr. Kreitz was here. I did run across a 2002 resolution in some files that indicated that Edgar had passed a resolution looking to put the fire annex station out at Sea Lion and the Seward Highway. So I don't know if that has to be acted on first or what happened with that, but it was an interesting read nonetheless. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good timing. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Jason Eberson.
Good evening, Council. Jason Eberson, Cuesta Woods. I'm speaking this evening against the reintroduction of the failed sale of the City Electric Department as a concerned ratepayer. Just this May, we voted on a ballot measure to sell the city-owned electric department. The vote followed our guidelines and procedures, and the vote failed to pass. One major issue with the sale was the lack of transparency. A direct quote from Alaska Public Media's August 2nd report on the issue stated, "Seward residents criticized the council's decision to discuss parts of the sale process in closed-door meetings, and the choice of Homer Electric Association as the buyer over Anchorage utility Chugach Electric, which had lower rates. Now, instead of trying to educate our voters on the issue, we are going to move the goalpost to allow the sale to pass more easily with a possible small majority on such a massive and long-term issue. If this sale is intended to serve the community, then the voters need to be as educated as possible in order to make an informed decision that will impact this city and the surrounding areas we serve for many years. If our community doesn't stop at the city limits and we serve other ratepayers beyond the city border, why do they not get a say in this decision? It is very possible that the small majority you are looking to pass this resolution with a reduced threshold is actually a minority of the user group. This would be a huge disservice to the community at large. In closing, the council should be seeking more of our voters, but instead we are doing the opposite. No education or discussion on the issues and moving the goalpost to ram through one of the biggest issues that we will ever vote on. Please consider these far-reaching actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Pat Mesmer.
Patrick Mesmer, Inside City Limits. I'm talking on behalf of the employees tonight. I'm an SPA board member. Right now, we have what I consider a staffing emergency. I've been wanting to call each of the council members individually and talk to you guys, but I'll be honest, I've just been exhausted. Been working a lot of overtime, and I haven't made time for that. That's on me. In patrol right now, we have 4 openings, and we have 1 officer in the academy who's not going to be available to work, because of training in the FTO program for about 8 months. I've been averaging, what I just mentioned, about 20 hours overtime a pay period right now. Even on my days off, I've been called into work to assist with everything, and I'm not trying to complain. It's just it's stressful. The department's at a spot right now, and I'm talking about I know every department's having problems, but I know the police department more, where we are, open with 4 positions, and 3 of us can retire in the next 2 years. I'm eligible for full retirement December 1st of 2024. Yeah, 2024. The jail is even worse as far as staffing issues right now, and we don't get anyone to apply for those positions. And again, like the whole city as a whole is having problems. I know Parks and Rec's really struggling as well. This problem is, in my mind, should be considered like as an emergency, something where we start immediately. I know we can't do stuff like throw money out automatically, but I think we need to start having work sessions and do something about it. I see it as a 3-part solution, and I don't have the details here, but I think housing's number 1. If we had housing that people could afford or subsidized by, like a lot of private sector employers do, we could have people come for that. Because we've had people that have left even after they're offered jobs, and I know this happened in the private sector because they can't find a place to live that they can afford. Increase the wages to be more competitive. Again, if you subsidize the housing, though, the wages don't have to be as high. It's kind of a balance. Provide a matching retirement to supplement PERS. The Tier 4 like I'm on a pension, so it doesn't affect me, but the new, like our deputy chief is on a Tier 4 pension, and we've talked before, he's gonna have to probably work till he's 60 to get anywhere near close to what I have getting out at 51. And another thing that would help, at least with the police department, I'm sure the fire department as well, is provide a modern building where they'd have a gym and things that we could attract. Like when we're trying to attract officers, we're competing with departments that pay bonuses, have higher wages, and have modern facilities. I mean, it's just, we don't really have, I'm not trying to be mean, but they're looking at a spreadsheet when they look at these different jobs, and we just don't compare right now. There are some immediate actions that could be looked at and done, like as a short-term fix while you work on a wage study. One would be increase the COLAs that are coming up. They're 1.5% for 2 years coming up. They could be moved up. I'll just throw a number out, 10, 5, just something more substantial. We could offer a signing bonus like the military does. This would be more for the critically shorted area like the officers, and that would be, okay, if the officer agrees to join the department, sorry, I'll be really quick, for a certain bonus amount, but they have to work 3 years. I think I'll be really quick, I think we're at a point where we can't afford to keep going. It's going to cost us more money in the long run. Thanks.
Mr. Clerk, who else do we have?
No one else has signed in.
Is there anyone out there that wants to speak? Come on up.
Hello, I'm Micah Van Buskirk, Inside City Limits. On your agenda today, you'll be discussing a proposal to sell Lot 10A, Fort Raymond subdivision, to an excellent business in our town. While I support the expansion and prosperity of Seward City Tours, I am begging you to not sell this particular parcel of land to them or anyone else until there is time to do more community planning to determine the highest and best use of this land. This is the last parcel of land in our community where a recreational facility of any kind could be built. It is critical that this kind of facility be close to our schools to be fully utilized by the children and families that live here year-round. The City of Seward spent almost $100,000 last year on a study, a feasibility study to look at a recreational facility for Seward. And the conclusion on page 111 and 112 of this is that this one parcel of land is the only option for this kind of facility for our community. A recreational facility has been a priority and a need in our community for decades. This has been on the City of Seward's comprehensive plan since the first plan was published. Our families and residents of all ages need an indoor facility where they can be active, healthy, and meet socially during the winter and during the many months of inclement weather that our town experiences. I've personally served on 3 different committees over the last 28 years I've been here, and there are several other committees and feasibility studies done before that. There's widespread community support for this, and you guys saw that last year during the work sessions and the planning sessions and the reviews of this. The room was packed. During the December 12th, 2022 City Council meeting, after significant community input, the City Council added building a recreation facility to their 6-year capital improvement plan and tentatively scheduled this project for 2025. It would be irresponsible and negligent to sell the land intended for this project before any planning can take place. This parcel is very valuable highway frontage. If it's not used for a recreational facility, it could be an option for our future fire department or public safety building, which is on your agenda tonight. There have been discussions about the electric department or Homer Electric expanding onto this land. Public Works facility is being engineered in this area. The comprehensive plan is being reviewed this year. There's simply too many city priorities that are up in the air right now and need to be fully examined before you sell this land. Again, I want to be clear that I support Seward City Tours. They have an amazing business in our town. They do great things, and I encourage them to find land. Not this particular parcel. Please postpone the discussion concerning the sale of this until more planning can be done and identify the best use of this parcel. Thank you for serving on City Council and working together to create a stronger community for everyone, especially those of us who live here year-round. Thank you.
Micah, is there anyone else wishing to speak? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Kat Sorensen and I live inside city limits. I'm also the executive director of the Seward Chamber of Commerce, who started the 68th annual Silver Salmon Derby on Saturday, August 12th with 16-foot seas and a small craft advisory. So we got off to a slow start, but the fish have been coming in and the anglers have been registering. We have nearly 600 anglers registered, 378 fish weighed as of 7 p.m., and then over 2,000 pounds of silver salmon. And that's important because the more fish that we weigh in, the more money we receive from OBI in exchange for that, and the more fish, the more fish buyback that we receive from anglers as well. That all goes to fish restoration, and the chamber at the end of the season buys silver salmon smolt from the Cook Inlet Aquaculture to release back in Resurrection Bay, which is how the Silver Salmon Derby kind of started 68 years ago. Currently in the lead is Cody Strait with a 12.57 pound silver from Anchorage. Then Eric Jackson and Randy Knopick are neck and neck for the Seward cumulative weight, which receives a $500 gift card from Cabela's. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our sponsors, JAG, Royal Caribbean, Shoreside, the City of Seward, University of Alaska Seward Marine Center, who took us out tagging, the Alaska Airlines, Kenai Fjords Tour, Major Marine, Sunny Cove Kayaking, Coho Joe's, Kaladi Brothers, Kusiat Ka Refrigeration, and the Fish House, as well as Stony Creek, who will be providing beer at our Silver Salmon Ball, which is on August 18th, which will also have a jazz quartet, free sushi, and a lot of door prizes. So, oh, and one more quick thank you to Firebrand, Porthole, Safeway, and Subway for providing food for all of our sponsors, all of our volunteers. Our volunteers are really, really helpful, weighing the fish, helping all of the anglers register and everything. So it's a big, big task, and we thank our volunteers for that, as well as the Harbor Master's Office for always being so helpful. If anybody wants a t-shirt, we have a bunch of cool t-shirts this year for sale. You can also get a t-shirt by volunteering. There's a few spots available. And my favorite prize in the Derby is if you have the 68th heaviest fish, you win a Royal Caribbean cruise for 2 anywhere they go. So that's always a really fun one. People hoping to get 68th heaviest because it's our 68th annual year. Yeah, and one more thing I'd like to clarify for any anglers out there listening. You need to register online by 9 a.m. the day you fish, but you're allowed to register in person until 1 p.m. We just got to make sure you don't have any fish guts on you yet and you're trying to sneak by us. So thank you, and thank you again to the City of Seward for sponsoring.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak? Come on up.
Becky Dunn, Inside the City. I have a letter here that Bruce Jaffa was hoping to get to the clerk in time to be laid down, but apparently didn't make it, so I was wondering if you could hand that to the clerk. Thank you. Becky Dunn, Inside the City. I did the handout. I also wanted to mention that Kenai Peninsula Borough, when there is any meetings aired, any meetings that happen in their chamber, they're recorded. And any letters to they don't have a council, they have assembly, they are available for the public to view. Our letters can't make the packet in time because, as Chris pointed out, many people write letters after they read the packet. So that's why the letters aren't in the packet when people ask me that. But it would be nice if they could be available somewhere to read. And all their meetings are recorded. The electric ad hoc meeting isn't recorded, but I do air that, and it is downloaded on Sacktown YouTube channel, and Linda Paquette does it on her Facebook page. So if anybody wants to view past meetings on that, they're available there. And I'm a little concerned that there's some things that aren't getting addressed. Everybody's so focused on the electric thing, which is huge and very important. But I agree with both people that spoke up to not drop the ball on to keep the motion moving on the community center. So that might not be the best property to buy. Another thing that I've had people bringing to my attention lately, and literally showing up on my doorstep, is you literally have to drive yourself to Kenai to get a rape kit done in Seward. There are no rape kits done in Seward, and no services are offered to drive. You have to drive yourself to get rape kits done. And the system is already broke as far as that is concerned, statewide, nationwide. You also have to wait for a year often or more to get back the results. It's a said rape kit. The last 3 rapes in Seward that I'm aware of will never be prosecuted because of the way they were handled. So I agree with more people, and I would like to see them advertise in places to encourage a female cop. As far as I know, since Trooper Jocelyn left, there still is not a female trooper on the Kenai Peninsula. So maybe we could hit up those places. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Is there anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the citizen comment portion and move to the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. I need a motion and a second, please.
I'll move to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any changes that anybody wants? Councilmember Calhoun.
Yes, I would like to pull Resolution 2023-095 from the consent agenda.
Okay, I'll move that down. Anything else? Councilmember Finch.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to remove Resolution 2023-093 from the consent agenda also.
Okay, and we'll hear that after. And Councilmember DeMoss.
I would like to add action memorandums 2023-011 and 2023-012 to the consent agenda.
Okay.
Or do I need to do that separately?
I believe you can ask for that, and if there's an objection, then I believe that's how it works, Mr. Clerk, is that correct? So does anyone object to that? Okay, so seeing no objections, action memorandum 2023-011 and -012 would be on the consent agenda. Okay, any other changes? Okay, seeing none, I believe we're ready to vote on the agenda when you're ready.
Okay, just shuffling things around there.
Yeah.
Okay, voting on tonight's agenda and consent agenda minus resolution 093 and 095 and adding action memorandums 011 and 012.
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, your agenda and consent agenda have been approved. And approved on tonight's consent agenda are the July 24th, 2023 City Council regular meeting minutes, Resolution 2023-090, accepting the return of $56,310.58 in funds from Kenai Peninsula Borough that was intended for the Japanese Creek Feasibility Study Project and appropriating funds. Resolution 2023-091, approving an employment agreement between the City of Seward and Kathleen Sorensen for City Manager Services. Resolution 2023-092, authorizing the City Manager to enter into a loan agreement with the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation. And Action Memorandum 2023-011, determining it is in the best interest of the Seward community to sell the electric utility and specifying the primary reasons. And Action Memorandum 2023-012, clarifying the reasons Homer Electric Association is the preferred electric utility to purchase Seward Electric.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to proclamations and awards, and we have one proclamation. I'm going to ask the Vice Mayor to read this proclamation because I'm going to accept it as RBHS President, and I don't want to read something except, so I'll stand up too.
If you would like.
Yes, I want to.
Okay. Whereas on August 28, 1903, 83 men, women, and children arrived at Resurrection Bay on the steamer the Santa Ana, and whereas aboard this steamer were two brothers, John and Frank Belain, who arrived on the Lowell homestead, and whereas the Belain brothers envisioned a railroad to the interior of Alaska with a coastal headquarters, and whereas the settlers cleared the town site, erected buildings, and began the construction of the Alaska Central Railroad, later to become the Alaska Railroad, and whereas John Belain bestowed upon the new town the name Seward in honor of William H. Seward, President Lincoln's Secretary of State, who negotiated the purchase of Alaska from Russia in 1867, and was later President Andrew Johnson's Secretary of State, and whereas the landing date of August 28, 1903 is remembered as Seward's Founders Day. Now therefore I, John, on behalf of the Mayor Sue McClure of the City of Seward, Alaska, do hereby proclaim Saturday, August 28, 2023 as Founders Day. Dated this 14th day of August, 2023.
Thank you. And so it isn't Saturday, however, it's Monday, August 28th. I just found an error in the proclamation. And the reason I know that is Monday, August, well, thank you. Monday, August 28th is a Monday, and it's also a council meeting night. So we, as RBHS, the Resurrection Bay Historical Society, of which I'm the president, decided to hold our Founder's Day celebration from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. that day in the community room and the museum. So you can stop over for cake after lunch, and the Japanese, the Obuhiro Japanese delegation will be here then. So they will be present at some point during then, the Founder's Day. We'll have a running series of pictures honoring the Alaska Railroad because it's their 100th anniversary, and they were, you know, the railroad was substantial in our history. I'll be playing funky old-time stuff on the pump organ in the museum periodically throughout the 3 hours. And the public's more than welcome to come and see what we've got in the museum and have some cake. And this is an annual event that RDHS puts on, and it's always happening. We will change the day of the week on that because it is a Monday. And thank you very much. Okay, next we have the city manager's report, which can be found on page 6. And so, acting city manager Regis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you have my report there. So just a couple of things I need to add. One, so Senator Murkowski sent her staff and her defense staff here this past weekend. And took them around Seward to show them the Low Canyon Tunnel, the SMIC, the Harbor Master's Office, and some of all the infrastructure we got going on, and explain to them the things we're going to try to do in the future. It was about 2.5 hour rainy tour, and but they spent the night and then they were heading off to different places. So we got that, and they're also going to be looking at some more funding for. I know funding's a little short for. They actually mentioned the FRC. They look like they took some money again, and they're working to get it back. On that, talking about the FRC. You see that Mr. Brumley is here with the Coast Guard, and at the next meeting I'm going to be bringing resolution before you for the sale for the purchase of the land across the bay and the property on this side. So I can explain it next time, the next meeting, how it's working out. So they have to purchase the land, they can't own the building, so they're going to give us the building and then lease it back from us. So, but that'll be at the next meeting, which giving you a heads up that's coming. So I'm going to be out next week. Stephen's going to be acting city manager while I'm gone, Monday through Friday. And on a not so good note, so the Harbor Master's restrooms has been getting hit, I call it getting hit, by somebody that likes to stuff concrete diapers and stuff down in our toilets and try to clog up the system. We got them cleared the last 4 times, but we didn't win last night, apparently. So the whole system shut down. There is no public showers in town that are open. The one on the beach got hit with electrical issues, so they're shut down. So our restrooms are shut down. We're going to try to get the guy down tomorrow to flush out the lines again. And last time he pulled out a baggie with blow foam in it, and it spread out and it blocked it. And then the diaper with concrete in it with sinks and anyways, so when it does get back open, I'm going to shut the bathrooms down at 9 p.m., open them at 6 during the Derby, and then we'll figure out after Derby. But you're going to hear some complaints. I'm sorry. It's $3,000 to open up that line. So it's like the 3rd or 4th time. So that's all I got.
Wow. Questions? Was that Councilmember Gaines?
I just wanted for you to verify so people know that you guys are trying to figure out who's doing it.
Oh, thank you. We do have some new cameras outside. They're outside the restrooms, so it has facial recognition, and we have a couple people identified. We're not sure it's them or not. It might not be them, but we're going through and looking to see if they were there the last night again. And it's usually about 4 to 5 in the morning when it's happening. So we think, but we're not sure. So we're trying, and thanks to IT with the cameras, we got a lot better picture of who's going in and out. So.
Okay, well, it's so sad.
Sorry.
Other questions for the city manager? Councilmember Calhoun.
I have a couple of questions, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I was looking at the report on the library boiler and the other stuff over there that needs obviously some work. Are we going to get an estimate on the cost of that fairly soon, or?
$244,000 right now. That's what the engineer's estimate is. We're going to have a meeting here this coming week on it. And we're probably gonna have to go out to bid to find somebody to come in and repair it. And then we're gonna probably have an engineering firm be the on-site project manager, because I don't know all the electric, Doug doesn't know all the electric, all the stuff, so we have to have a professional thing. But that's coming up here shortly. Like I said, we have a meeting Thursday? Tuesday, so, yeah.
Okay,
It's gonna come back before you to go out to bid, so just,
okay, and at that point, we'll understand where the funding source for it is, general fund or,
correct.
okay. Okay.
Other? Yeah.
Yeah, I have one thing, my understanding, and I hope I'm not stealing anybody's thunder on this, but it was a question that I had. My understanding is we have a finance director now?
Correct. So myself and several other directors, we interviewed some people, person for the finance director job, and so we hired Sully. She's been doing the job, and we sent her to some more schooling in government accounting. She's going to more future schooling here shortly, but we started her as the finance director. And then we're slowly, hopefully, we're gonna slowly weed out the firm. Right now, she's short-staffed. There's 3 people in the office right now, so we need to keep the firm hired for right now until we can get a full finance department.
Okay, follow up on that?
Well, yeah,
Another question?
the one question, the main question I have on it is, since we didn't fund that position in our budget, then we're gonna have to make an adjustment, obviously.
Correct. We'll have to
For
bring
that.
something back before you for that, but on the payroll for that department, since it's been short-staffed all year, it shouldn't be much to add to cover the wages for the remaining part of the year, because they've been short like 3 people in there most of the year, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Other question, Councilmember Calhoun? Just go through yours.
Not right now, thanks,
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Other questions from anyone else for the city manager? Yes,
I'll
Vice
go-
Mayor
I'll go ahead-
Masenga.
I'll go ahead and ask.
Okay.
Have we heard anything about the logistically land as far as DEC, Alaska DEC or?
So we just received a report yesterday or Friday, and we haven't digested it yet. It's pretty, a lot. It's a lot in there, so we're gonna get with the attorneys and go through it and make sure, because there's a lot of stuff in there that I don't understand, so, you know, we did get a report back though, but soon then we can send it to council members and we'll put it in the next CMR actually.
All right, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the city clerk report. Do you want to have, it's on, by the way, on page 110 of the packet, and Mr. Clerk.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor McClure. So we successfully hosted the 4 Japanese exchange students, and they had a great week here. And it was certainly a whirlwind. Appreciate the host families, Barnwells and the Krites. And we're hoping next year some Seward students will apply for the program, so it's not a lopsided exchange like it was this year. And this was the first exchange since COVID, so since then it was completely new staff on both sides here in Obihiro, so we did our best to figure it out, and it was a lot of work for planning and all that, but we pulled it off, so we'll be ready for next year.
Thank you, and we really appreciate the people who helped make this happen, the committee, Councilmember Barnwell and Kat Sorensen and another person from the chamber who took over, yeah, and our clerks, so, and the others in your office too were assisting. So the adult, do you want to say anything about the adult exchange?
Yeah, that's coming up pretty quick.
Yeah.
They'll be here August 25th, and it will be a total of 11, 4 city officials. Anyway, a group of citizens, and then plus Chris from Obihiro, who came with the students, and then one other staff member. And they're arriving at the same time, but leaving in 2 separate groups. The city officials are leaving a little earlier.
And we'll be seeing them at the...
They will be at the August 28th meeting.
Can I touch on one thing, Madam Mayor? They also requested infrastructure tour, so we're arranging it with the department heads to give them a tour of our infrastructure around town.
Oh, good. I was hoping that.
And they'll be presenting a gift to us during that meeting. And then for our gift to Obahiro, we take to Obahiro and present it. So we're not doing the exchange here. It's just them presenting us with the gift.
Right. And our folks will be going over there in late October.
that
And
is
do you want to say anything about the applications?
So we released the applications to the general public for up to 5 citizens to go along with the delegation. They would be paying their own airfare, but the main perk is the homestay opportunities and just to be part of the delegation. And those applicants will be selected also on the August 28th council meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Question? Yeah, Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, I just want to remind people that we're having a fish barbecue on Saturday the 26th at the Branson Pavilion. And that would be with the Japanese contingent and people in Seward, so it should be a lot of fun.
That's potluck, right?
It'll be a potluck, but we're also serving fish for people there too. So we're buying some fish.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Clerk?
That's all for now, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. City Attorney Report. We'll find out on page 111. And Sam, what you got?
Yeah. The city clerk's report sounds like much more interesting stuff than anything I'm up to, but yeah, glad to be here. A firm as a whole works on for Seward and compiled the list of things we've worked on is compiled by stuff other people are working on too. But I know what I personally was involved in, it's on our report this month, was working on Title VI with Sewardly, and the city's accountants helped on that too. So it's an interesting, they did a lot of the initial drafting, and then the accountant brains and the attorney brains work differently, which is a good thing. And so we collaborated on that. It was an interesting push-pull and a much better broad depth project. The other thing that I know we were here a month or two ago, it asked the council's blessing to proceed, bring legal action against a abandoned vessel, and that we filed a suit and we're hoping for a reasonable response and to get the vessel moved. And I think so far we have that. So the idea is not, it's just more to make it happen. And I think there's a will to, but so we'll work toward doing that, hopefully to avoid extensive litigation of it. That's not the goal. So it seems to be trending in the right direction, but it's been a slow process thus far. So the only other comment looking at the report that I guess I'll make, and I've probably made before, is just that I have a lot of contact with like Chris on day-to-day just public records, or with Tammy on just day-to-day personnel. Just how's this code read? Should we do this? Should we do that? Kind of stuff, and that's not represented, and that's a lot of what I just really enjoy. It's just the 15-minute calls to help get something unstuck or make sure we're trending in the right direction. And that just never shows up in print when you see the report. So I enjoy being able to do that. So that's all I've got unless there's any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions for Sam? No? I like it when attorneys enjoy their work. I see that smile. The next section on here, other reports and announcements, generally that usually falls at the end of the agenda, and it will in the future, but those are things we can read unless there's any questions about them now. They're more for informational purposes. Okay, so we're down to the presentations, and we have a presentation by R&M on the public safety building needs assessment, and you'll find this on page 151 of the packet, and I see we're going to have it up there, and we have someone online too. Are you still there? On the phone?
Yeah, this is
okay.
David Sopiel with
KPB Architect.
Okay, so go ahead. Generally, we allow 10 minutes, but there will be some discussion afterwards, so.
Wonderful, thank you. Good evening, council members. I am Taryn Olson-Yell. I'm a planner with R&M, and I'm the project manager for this needs assessment and site selection process. I'm joined by David Papiel with KPB Architects on the phone to answer any of our specific space need questions and speak more in detail about the architectural process. We are also partnering with Integris Architecture. We've got a fire station and a police station expert each on this team as well, who we've been working very closely with. We're here today to just give you an update on what we've been working on over the past few months. It's been a while since I last spoke to you about what this effort was going to be, and we're excited to share where we're at. Would you mind clicking to the next slide? Thanks. So just a recap, we are looking at the existing conditions and current and future needs for the police department, fire department, the building department, as well as the DMV. All of these facilities cohabitate at the moment, so DMV is currently with the police department and the building department is housed within the fire station. We're really doing a deep dive into what's working right now, what's maybe not working, and making sure that we are or are not currently meeting the needs of this community. And we're defining those needs not only on response currently and how we're handling emergency situations, but also are we meeting code? There's a lot of different standards out there for police and fire and emergency response buildings, and we're looking at all of those to see if we're in compliance and meeting those minimum standards. So we're finishing up step one right now, which is that needs assessment. I will just let everyone know right now I am not going to be presenting sites today. We haven't gotten that far along in the process, so if you were excited to hear about that, sorry to say we're still in process for that, and we'll be coming back to you with results of that in December. But we had a week-long visit doing site visits up here and working and having interviews with department staff and really getting to know pretty intimately the ins and outs of the department and how we're working here. And so the goal of a new facility, and I'm going to preface with new, could be replacing in site, it could be a new facility on a new site. We're not sure what that looks like yet, but a modern facility for the fire station, the goal of that is really to improve operational deficiencies, increase our ability to provide effective emergency services, and to provide flexibility for the future. We can go into a lot of details about what is currently lacking per standards in our existing facility, but I would really want to stress what this department is trying to do in the future. And a big thing for the fire department especially, it's extremely reliant and primarily reliant on volunteers right now. There's one full-time firefighter, and then Chief Kreitz is included in that, and so that volunteer training and retention is a huge component of current operations and as well as future. So when we're talking about future needs, again, you're gonna see some tables later on in this presentation where current is what space do we need today to provide sufficient operation. So that's current need. Future need, we're talking about projecting 20 years into the future. And we're considering a low to moderate, well, we're really hanging out in the low growth area for that. We know overall population is not growing here in City of Seward, but we also know a big limitation to that is housing. And there's a lot of initiatives and effort being done to currently increase that. And so we have taken that into account and are looking at a low growth. So with that, go to the next slide, thank you. We have some photos up on the screen of the existing fire station. If you guys haven't been over there lately, I highly encourage you to talk to Chief Kreitz. I'm sure he'd be happy to give you a tour. But just a lot has changed since the building was built in 1963, including those emergency response standards. There's been a lot of change in what is considered minimum standard as well as best practice for these types of facilities. And first and foremost, if you were to go over as a member of the public right now to the fire station, there's no ADA access. There is stairs, it's narrow, and you enter right into the administrative office, which is, they're doing an excellent job with the space that they have, but there is no actual lobby space or gathering area. And if their administrative personnel is not available or sitting at their desk the moment a member of the public walks in, that member of the public has direct access into the apparatus bay, the fire chief's personal office, and all of that really essential equipment that we wouldn't want the public interacting with from a safety and security standpoint. So that's a major issue. We also know that there's significant lack of space generally throughout the entire facility. The apparatus bay is extremely tight and not to code. There's currently no space where if they come into contact with contaminated materials to decontaminize and lay their equipment down in a space that isn't currently in contact with other areas of the facility, including the kitchen area. There's no secure separation. Right now it's a single door that is not to code. Again, I just want to reiterate, there's only so much that the department can do with the facility that they have, and they're doing an excellent job at that. Some seriously creative workarounds, and they've been still able to serve the community, but the facility itself is lacking, and to meet modern emergency response standards, there definitely needs to be an increase in available space. So this graphic shows that comparison in square footage between the existing conditions, so where we're at right now, and then the current need, and the green is the future need. So this is all representative scale. So the blue bar is what we have right now in terms of square footage, and the red bar is what we need to be to code to serve the community today. The big thing I want to point out here is that the difference between the current need and the future need is pretty marginal. So where we need to be to meet today's standards compared to where we anticipate the community being in 20 years is not that significant of a leap, and the effort really is to meet current need right now. The police department is going through a similar experience. So they're offering a lot of public-facing services as well as a lot of things that require security and separation from the public. So they obviously do our law enforcement and patrol. They also have the offender holding area, which is the jail, but they also house the DMV, which is very public-facing forward for people to come and get their driver's licenses, vehicle registration, and all of that. The goals of the new police facility are also to improve operational deficiencies, enhance security measures to protect not only the staff that are working there, but also the people who are coming in and receiving evidence processing, filing a complaint, taking action on their neighbors, things like that. We also want to make sure that we're providing modern, secure, and humanely housing male and female offenders. Right now there's only a single jail cell, and it is not gender separated, and gender inclusivity is an issue amongst all the departments. There's currently no separated facilities. If we were to have female volunteer firefighters, they would not have their own designated restroom or bunk area as it currently stands. So future need, we really, for the police department, are focusing on providing those adequate spaces for security practices, making sure that we're handling evidence appropriately, that there's safe spaces for the intake of offenders, and again, just providing lobby spaces and a community area that people are able to currently enter. As I'm sure you all know, the police department is currently housed right across the hall, and that is their main entrance, and also not ADA accessible. Here are a few photos of the situation that they're working in right now. Again, doing a remarkable job with the limited space that they have. Right now, all of the office spaces are appropriately sized for 1 to 2 people, and all of them are currently operating with 2 to 4 officers in there at any given time. There is no public-facing and welcoming area that's ADA accessible, and that has been a huge limitation, especially for DMV services and people wanting to, come and speak to their law enforcement officers. So here's that same graphic, just reflecting the police department and DMV services. So the blue, again, is existing conditions where we are right now, and the red is where we need to be to meet current standards. And we're also not seeing a big change between current need and the future need here as well. Here's our nitty-gritty detail. So our architects drilled down and really did go space by space for each department and establish the existing square footage, what they're currently working in, and the square footage that we would currently need. And across the board, we're looking at about 4 times the size of our existing facility is needed to meet current code, which is really pretty dramatic when you think about it. 4 times is to meet current standard. And we have a lot of details that we can go into, and I would love for questions, but David, I unfortunately only left you about 2 minutes or 20 seconds on our 10-minute time limit. But would you like to add anything specific to the space planning?
I think you did a great job, Taryn. I think the only thing that I would add, just very generally, is that we're looking at getting the facilities up to best standards and practices as sort of national standards and then code standards. And so these square footage numbers and the graphics that you're seeing, they represent they represent some real numbers in terms of how those facilities should be functioning in comparison to facilities elsewhere, similar facilities elsewhere. And so I think I just wanted to say that real generally in that this is grounded, this work and the numbers and things that we're looking at are grounded sort of in comparative analysis and a review of nationally accepted standards and best practices. So just to provide a little bit of context to some of that, because the numbers are quite big, but that's what they are.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Does that conclude your presentation?
I do have a few more slides, but this is a summary of where we're at right now. The slides that are available in the packet are what we're going to be working towards in the future, so I'm comfortable yielding my timer for questions.
Okay, I'd like to turn it to administration at this point, and maybe hear from the police and fire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'll probably turn it over to Chief Kreitz and then Deputy Chief Schaefer-Meyer in a moment. I guess just to touch lastly on what Taryn was mentioning before, is this project, is it going to continue on? We're going to have an engineer's estimate for the construction cost and then some site recommendations for you that the Community Development Director has been working with R&M on. And I would just thank the whole design team. David's been on the phone, and he's actually helping us with the Public Works Facility project, and they've been wonderful to work with us, as is R&M as well. So, yeah.
Okay, Chief Kreitz.
Thanks. This has been quite eye-opening. I know for us, and I'm pretty sure for them as well. It's like, I couldn't say it better how David was articulating the fact that they didn't come in and say, how big of an office do you want? They came in and said, what procedures do you do? How many apparatus do you have? What are the measurements of them? And this is very, I would never have thought this. I would never have thought we were that undersized. I knew we were cramped and tight, and we didn't have a decon room. We didn't have a place for our compressor to run without overheating. We know our problems, but this is insane to see the numbers. And just I hope that we get your support to continue on. We're not asking to build a building next year. We're asking to get this report, possibly a 30-60% down the road, but having this feasibility study is really going to open the doors for us. The City of Kodiak just received $15 million from the state of Alaska towards their new station. One of our state or federal senators, U.S. Senator's office called us about 4 years ago, knowing we needed a new station, and they were looking for this study, and they were ready to start giving us money. We didn't have it on hand, so I appreciate you allowing the feasibility study to happen, because it is going to open doors for grants, state, federal monies. That one day, I don't know if I'll ever see it, but hopefully someday in the future there'll be a new public works, public safety, fire station, and/or police station.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Chief, did you want to say anything, or, and then we'll, if there are questions.
Deputy Chief Schaefer-Meyer, been working in the Seward Police Department about 16 years now. So over that 16 years, I've seen a variety of generations of police, from the pensioned police to now the more 401k police we've got now, and kind of seeing the different expectations of those different generations. And currently the modern trend that we're seeing in the future generations of police is it's less, it's less like real dedication to the department and more dedication to themselves. So there's a lot more focus on like how would your department help me mentally, help me physically. Mental wellness, employee wellness is a very large priority in their mindset. And so we're talking about a new building. It's not just to meet services to the community, but it's also to help attract new employees to us. Right now, we've been striking out a lot on meeting that mental wellness and that employee wellness side of things for many decades now. So we're really quite behind the ball on that. So when we start doing future planning and you start seeing things like gym space, mother rooms, like kind of calming rooms, things like that 20, 30 years ago were kind of considered like a nice to have or an extravagance, but now it's becoming more of a mandatory requirement to attract new employees and the new generational mindsets. So I'm hoping as we work together moving forward that we keep the future in mind and focus not so much on what can we get to get us to the standard right now, but go beyond the minimums, think about future-proofing as much as possible so we get as much use out of this building as possible for the longest period of time as possible. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Sewell, did you have?
That's all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so are there questions from council for any of these people? Yeah, Councilmember Barnwell. Comments.
Couple of questions. First a comment. When I toured the police department and fire department last winter, I was just floored at how much of a need both of those departments have. It's just shocking, really. And I just was super glad that this is happening, that we're seeing this. I am amazed. It's shocking to see the size difference. So a couple of questions I had, just for frame of reference, is the Bear Creek Fire Department, how big is that? Just to get a reference on that. Does anyone know the square footage of that?
They are around the 14 to 15.
Okay. So we're looking at almost, double or a little less than double of Bear Creek Fire Department. And then the other question I had was, is there any way we can combine these two departments or in one building, or is that being looked at? Fire Department and police.
So,
I mean, you're welcome to speak to it.
So the study is going to address the fire department needs, the police department needs, what a fire station would look like, a police station would look like, and then what it would look like together.
Mhm.
So we're going to give you 3 options.
Yep.
Correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're looking at all potential combinations, and we're getting to the point now where this is basically our minimum square footage that we're looking at for those departments. And I will just add, compared to the Bear Creek Fire Station, the building department is still included in our fire station calculations as well. So we do have additional departments that are in these numbers that you wouldn't see for Bear Creek and other places that are supported as part of KPB instead of the city. So that's part of it. But yeah, we're getting to the puzzle piece stage where here's our minimum square footage, but we don't know what that puzzle piece looks like, and we might find a site that's a little more constrained. So, we could be looking at a 2-story facility. We might be looking at a combined that's bigger, looking at parking needs. So yeah, now it becomes, as a planner, this is the part that thrills me. It's putting all the pieces together and finding the right site. So all options are on the table at this point.
Go ahead.
Sharon, I'd add one thing on the combined facilities. When we were down there for a week meeting with all the departments we're mentioning here, we had several instances in which everybody was in the same room, and we've had some open discussion about it, and that makes its way into the report, and it will make its way into the site selection. It is a challenge, for sure. There's 2 different departments functioning in 2 different ways, but it's something that we're aware of and that we've talked through, and it'll continue finding its way into the discussions here as we go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Could I chime in one more thing on that too? Is the last piece, like we talked about, is the funding analysis, and Taryn and her team will be examining external funding mechanisms, such as, like Chief Kreitz mentioned, Lisa Murkowski's office reaching out, and we want to make sure that we care for the fact that we're probably more likely to obtain funding for a fire station than we would be for a combined facility, and we want to finish out this report in a way that doesn't close any doors if we were to get a similar phone call down the road saying we have $15 million for a fire station. We don't want to say, well, the only thing we have this report for is a combined facility and not put ourselves into a position. At the same time, there's a possibility that there's a economy of scale in building a combined facility as well. And so we're just going to try and have to weave that all together as we finish up the project.
This all sounds good. Other questions? It's kind of a long presentation.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, yeah, Councilmember Calhoun.
Actually, it's more kind of a question, comment, when they were, kind of hit me when they were talking about somebody walking into the fire station and having access to the offices and stuff. Is there a way to tie that to the dispatcher's camera thing to have where they could actually see if somebody walked in there? Is that possible? Is that an IT thing, or?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I think we could, I know, excuse me, Madam Mayor, I know what they just did for us on the harbor, they can probably do that at the fire station too, put a camera in that location.
It may not happen very often, but I mean, I have gone in there at times and had to locate somebody, and I never really thought of it that way, but it might be something to look at.
Okay, anything else on this? Okay, I need to take a 5-minute break here, and then we'll come back for Resolution 2023-094.
Okay, we are back on the air.
Okay, I'm going to gavel just so you know we're doing it. We're back on the air and back at the meeting at 8:16. And having done some things on the consent agenda, we are now down to new business, and we have 3 resolutions. The first is Resolution 2023-094. Mr. Clerk, would you please read this into the record?
Okay, Resolution 2023-094, repealing Resolution 2023-058, Personnel Policy 2023-01, Phone Use and Recording Policy.
Okay, and you'll find this on page 259 of the packet. I need a motion and a second to approve this.
I'll move for the approval of Resolution 2023-094.
I'll second it.
Okay, Finch second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, do you want to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So, on May 8th, council approved the resolution for the phone policy. And then it was one of the councils brought back about bring it back to talk about it, discuss it more, and then to repeal that resolution. And so we got with the attorneys to repeal it and bring it back for you. That's what's back before you today, to repeal this resolution. The resolution you approve, right now you're going to, however you guys vote to either approve it or disapprove it. So I mean, it's going to go forward or not. We're going to continue on. I know it's a little confusing.
So tell us what a yes vote means and a no vote means, okay?
So a yes vote will remove the phone policy and the recording policy. A no vote will keep the policy intact.
As it is.
Correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so any further comments? I'll bring it back to council discussion. Councilmember Calhoun.
Just one quick question on that. So if it is repealed, it just takes us back to the state of Alaska standard for the law as far as that goes? What's current for the state?
I believe so, but let the attorney answer that question here. There it is.
Are you familiar?
So we never had a policy before, so then I think we're just using the state, I believe, right?
State statute will always apply.
Always applies.
Okay.
Did you want to comment on that, Sam?
No, I mean, unless there's a question, yeah, that's correct. The state statute would apply that it's that one party only needs to consent to a recording.
Okay.
The employer has every right to change that. The employer can, just like state policy says, or, the state law, you can drink under state law, but the employer can say not at work. And there can be a difference there in the workplace, but otherwise, yeah, we revert back to just the state law.
Okay. Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, I'm just unclear why we're even doing it. So, yeah, Councilmember Finch.
Councilmember Finch, it was your thing.
For everybody's record, I'm the one that brought it back because I've dealt with this in my career and in my personal life, and I stand behind what I believe in. If you're a professional supervisor that's been trained with leadership and understanding a hostile work environment and everything, you wouldn't be worried if somebody's recording you. And I've had a lot of discussions with city employees, okay? And I'm telling them what the state law is, because this takes their rights away to protect them. Okay, under the Alaska law, which is a one consent law, under Alaska statute, I can't remember off the top of my head, I was rereading it again today. But I fully support repealing this and sticking to Alaska law, which is it's a one consent person state. It makes people think before they speak and act.
So, Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, I don't, sorry, what is one consent, how are they?
Meaning if I'm your supervisor and you feel I've been hostile towards you, you can record our conversation. If I say, Robert, come to my office. You can by law record that conversation without my knowledge.
So that would be one consent meeting.
One consent, yes, sir, in that conversation. Okay. It has saved me in my career, and it has gone before a Superior Court judge with very, very high earnings for my family, the well-being of my family.
Councilmember.
So the way the city was worded, you had to have two people?
You had to notify the individual and get permission, and that violates what state law is, especially under hostile work environment conditions.
Did you have to inform your boss or just another?
Whoever you were dealing with at that time, and it violates what Alaska's one consent law is.
So, okay, Vice Mayor Osenga.
So I just want to point out again, and I tried pointing this out when we first brought this discussion up. It states in Recording Policy B, Section 3, the sole exception to this prohibition is that the employee who believes they have a legal right or a concerted activity right to surreptitiously record must notify, must notify, I lost my spot here. Must notify or have their legal or union representative notify city management in advance of or concurrent with the start of any recording. I figured that you could probably record and you're not violating.
That is usually under disciplinary action or a counseling session or the union representation, what that one's referred to.
But I would argue that the word is, and I can't ever say this, surreptitiously. That recording, that's to me not sitting in a meeting with somebody. That's you're recording somebody without their knowledge. And I don't know, I think that right there was something that would allow that. It's an exception to this prohibition.
But the rest of this violates state laws and their rights. And under the First Amendment right, also.
So I have a question for our attorney here. Resolution 2023-058 that we passed in that personnel policy, was that vetted by you, your firm?
Yeah, yes, it was. And these are pretty, yes, it was. And they're fairly common in that out that you mentioned where it says if you get permission. So if there is something that's really going on where you say, look, this person constantly talks to me this way, I really need to run my recorder and then you'll really hear what's going on. It's bad stuff. The supervisor can say, yeah, sure, go ahead. The idea is just that people there's a diminishment of sort of morale and whatever else that is the other side. Transparency or finding out things that are bad is the upside of recording, but a diminishment of morale and trust if people are running around thinking that other people might be recording them is the concern. But yeah, these are fairly common in that the issue with there's not so, there might be a right, you can look at it that way, but what the statute says, it's not illegal to record as long as one party consents to it. That's what it says. It says it's not illegal. It's a criminal statute saying that it says eavesdropping is illegal, but it's not illegal to record a conversation as long as one party consents to it. So it's not so much a right in terms of you have like the right to public records or it's some kind of other non-constitutional right, but it's just saying that it's not illegal to record a conversation. So I think it's a subtle distinction, but it's kind of, it's important what we're talking about. It's not, this doesn't necessarily take away a right. The state statute just makes it so it's legal to do. But yeah, these are fairly common. Whether it's a good idea or not, that's up to you guys, but it's lawful. And it's kind of like what I was saying before too about there are certain things that just at work, the workplace has the ability to make different policy choices depending on what it wants to do.
So, Councilmember Finch.
However, the Ninth Circuit Court, which includes Alaska, has held that their First Amendment right to record matters of public interest, which includes the right to record law enforcement officers engaging in the exercise of their official duties, has been upheld by the Ninth Circuit Court on the First Amendment. Absolutely. Yeah.
So that means it's okay to record. And our
One part.
policy,
One part, Mark.
our policy, as it exists now from the resolution we passed, allows us to record.
But you must notify,
With-
must notify
Right.
the individual that they're being
Right.
recorded.
And
Okay.
Madam
Councilmember
Mayor,
Finch.
historically, if you check with HR records across this country, the hostile work environments are filed either from a sexual harassment standpoint or a supervisor abusing his position. So that's why staff recording the verbal abuse or things that their supervisor is saying. But if you are a professional supervisor in the workplace with proper training and you apply it, it doesn't matter if they record you, because when they take it to HR to file a complaint, HR says you really have nothing and notifies HR they have a problem child.
Okay, Councilmember Barnwell.
So I guess I'm still confused because on B3, it doesn't say you have to notify, if you're my boss, I don't have to say, Mr. Finch, I'm recording you. What I need to do under this B3 is say, city manager or my union rep, I need to record this guy, and I need you to know that I'm doing that. And that's what B3 is doing there. And I find that to be, I find that to be pretty safe. I mean, if I have a problem with a supervisor, assuming it's not the city manager or my union rep, I have the discretion to record you without telling you that, under this language.
And speaking from
Councilmember
experience,
Finch.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Speaking from experience on this matter, you then, it's a natural instinct to worry about, if I go and tell this guy I'm recording because of this guy, the retaliation, okay, looked down upon, when most people that are recording a situation is because there's been multiple situations already going on. And when I go to my boss and tell them, it's my word against their word. Now I'm bringing you the proof.
Okay.
So that's why I'm adamant against this policy being in place. I think we should follow state law.
One more.
Sorry, I don't want to keep arguing too long, but I just want to say that sounds like a really dysfunctional environment at that point. And if we're at that level in the city, we have bigger problems than recording. And I really do worry about indiscriminate recording, of people not realizing they're being recorded. Then you end up with an environment in your workplace where people are paranoid about being recorded, or they're all just going out of control, which is what we see with social media all the time these days. And that really is an invasion of privacy, and that's a huge no-no for me. So that's my problem.
Okay, does anyone else want to weigh in? I should allow that. Okay, one more shot at it.
Thank you, Madam
Councilmember
Mayor.
Finch.
Mr. Barnwell, you have hit the nail on the head. I've been approached numerous times, and I've been telling people what Alaska law is. Because policy does not override law.
Okay, let me just review what the voting would be on this. A yes vote would repeal what we had.
This
put-
policy. They will repeal this
Repeal
policy.
the phone policy. A no vote on this is saying no to the repeal.
Correct.
So that would keep what we have previously passed.
Correct.
Okay, is everyone clear on that? We ready to vote? Okay, Mr. Clerk, we're ready to vote.
Okay, voting on the approval of Resolution 23-094. Finch.
Yes.
Barnwell.
No.
Demas.
No.
Calhoun.
Yes.
Osenga.
No.
And Mayor McClure.
No.
Okay, that resolution has failed.
Okay, and the vote was 4-2, 4 no, correct?
4 to 2.
Yeah. Okay, moving on, taken off the consent agenda was Resolution 2023-093. And when you're ready, Mr. Clerk, could you please read that?
Resolution 2023-093, authorizing the city manager to enter into a management and operating agreement with Providence Health and Services, Washington, doing business as Providence Health and Services, Alaska.
Okay, and this will be found on page 211 of the packet. And I need a motion to approve and a second, please.
For the approval of Resolution 2023-093.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration,
Yes, Madam Mayor, so we brought this before you. It was working on it long before me. It was Jeanette and MC, and there was a lot of stuff that happened with that and moving forward, and then working with Sully. And Stephen's been working on it, so it was some questions from Councilmember Finch that if he would just, we ask, we can get the answers for tonight, we can. If not, we can get them for you and give them to you at a later date.
so I'll turn it over to Councilmember Finch.
The reason I asked to have this pulled was, my understanding of reading this is instead of, from now on, they would not be giving any more monthly financial statements, from the way I understood that. And number two, I would really like for Providence Health Service to explain why they don't do rape kits in Seward, Alaska, with as much money as they do.
Say that one more time, sorry.
I would also like for them to be here to explain, if we could do a work session with them, why basic services like a rape kit can't be done in Seward.
Okay, do you have any response to that, and then I'll bring it back to you.
For the financial part of it, I believe it, because still got to do their monthly financials. I don't know where it says it in there.
Section 7E said they didn't have to, the way I read that.
7E, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we get administration to check on that. What page would we find that? On page 222? Yeah. Oh, it says, it does say, sorry, on page 222 of the packet.
They shall
in
provide.
the middle paragraph there.
Yeah.
Mr. Regis, or one of you guys, if you want to read that.
Oh, sorry. Providence shall provide the advisory council with monthly updates and comparing PSMC's actual financial performance to the approved budget during the course of each year to ensure the city is fully aware of the financial performance of PSMC on a monthly basis.
That pretty much answers that question.
Madam Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
as Norm said, we had a lot of cooks in the kitchen on this one, so to speak, and this has been Sam, Sully, Jeanette, Providence. This operating agreement with Providence was enacted in 2013. It's been amended 5 times since then, and the goal of this, I'm going to call it iteration of the operating agreement, was to incorporate all 5 amendments and to reflect the current relationship between Providence and the city. This is a really, really big topic. I think the last time we talked about it, there is definitely a need for some sort of work session to talk about the future of Providence and the city and the 1% and a possible sale of Mountain Haven with the hospital. It is a very large topic that could go a lot of different directions, and I guess I would tell you that the city manager has a quarterly meeting with the director of Providence, so right now that's Helena Jielski, and women's health is very much a topic that Helena is interested in, mobile mammograms, and all that kind of thing, and I would definitely concur that there's a need to have some sort of work session with the council to better understand the goal and the vision for Providence and the services that they're going to offer in our community. So,
We'll try to schedule something coming up on that, for sure. Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick clarification probably on 7E, that paragraph. I understand that they are going to provide a monthly update to the advisory council. How does it then make its way to us, since we are not the advisory council? Because I know people that are on that advisory council and that information hasn't flowed down.
So the city actually is offered a seat on the advisory council. We have not always been able to be present at those advisory council meetings, but the city is invited to attend.
Any other, Councilmember DeMoss?
I just wanted to comment on the rape kits. I had talked to the clinic and hospital about that, and it's not as easy as just getting the kits. You have to do lots of training and female providers, and they do.
I understand all that, and I'm just curious as to why we don't have that.
Those are the reasons.
You know?
There are a few things we don't have in Seward. Okay, any other comments on this? Are we ready to vote? It's good to have these explanations, though. I think we're ready to vote.
Okay, voting on the approval of Resolution 2023-093. Osenga?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
Okay. And the last resolution we have, that's moved off the consent agenda, is Resolution 2023-095. Mr. Clerk, could you read that for us, please?
Resolution 2023-095, authorizing the city manager to enter an independent contractor agreement with Selena Soto for GIS technical services and appropriating funds.
Okay, thank you. And that's on page 233 of the packet. I need a motion to approve in a second, please.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2023-095.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, do you want to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm going to ask Director Brinkley to come up here and discuss it more in depth of what all the GIS stuff that has been going on. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jason.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity actually to kind of help explain this and dig into this a little bit. So, and it does require a little bit of background, but due to its kind of uniqueness as a skill set, the GIS position that the city has always had is we've always contracted out that to different organizations or to different individuals. Our most recent contracts, which we ended in early 2022, was between $110 to $220 per hour. And those are for some shorter-term project-based kind of contracts. Like Selena kind of talked about earlier, when I came on, she was originally working as a temp, and it was really kind of a happenstance or providential that she did come in as an ad, and we were paying these high-dollar contracts, these people to do this work, and she's like, I can do that. And after kind of demonstrating what you could do and then taking on some of those tasks, we're like, oh, this makes total sense that we reclassify her as a GIS tech and pay her for the skills that she was doing, and we're able to get rid of all those contracts. And since we've hired her on in that position, she's obviously done a huge amount of work. She does very high quality work, and she's gotten more done in her short time here than we have in all those previous contracts combined over the years. And obviously with the cemetery, that was huge. Like the Muni land plan went from like 5 kind of really basic maps to 85 that were very detailed and oriented. And so we did that GIS needs assessment that Flow Analytics did, which is actually like really good money spent, because it allowed us to have someone from the outside say, hey, look, they interviewed all the departments and went around and said, look, here are your city's needs for GIS. And at one point in time, there is kind of more of like this little side thing that could be done, but at this point in time, kind of a comprehensive active GIS system is part of like any modern municipality. It's kind of a requirement for like efficient operation. And in the GIS needs assessment, all the departments identified like we need an up-to-date GIS working system. And just when you say GIS, it's hard to kind of comprehend, but this is like the best example that I have that I've told the people before. So Jason Knoyer, who's like a wastewater guy, he's out there working in the field. He's like, I think something's around here in this area. Right now, a lot of times what he does, he's like, I don't know what was there because it's old. So sometimes he'll go back to the shop and he'll find I need to find an as-built, go dig through files. He's like, man, I'm not finding anything here. He'll come talk to us. Do you guys have anything in your files for this, or any kind of historical data, or something on a plat or an easement, or those types of things? And so having an up-to-date GIS system would allow Jason to be standing out in the field, and he would pull up his device, just like an iPad or anything like that, and it would geolocate, say that this is right here, and he would just be able to say like, oh yeah, here's the pictures from when that was dug up 10 years ago. Here's the as-built. Here is the records, or any type of information, and he can actually geolocate it to like an inch of where it really is, and so it takes out a lot of guesswork. He can also too be like, hey, I replaced this valve while I was in there, and so I'm just going to type in right here into the system that this valve was replaced. It's this form, this model of valve, and all that kind of stuff like that, and that then goes in the permanent record. And so that's kind of one example. It can apply to the harbor. It can apply obviously to the cemetery. We kind of did that cleanup there, but it creates a public record and an inside record for users to use. So, and we as a city are kind of behind, honestly, from where we should be. And so it will take kind of a number of years of diligent work to do this. And obviously, we love Selena, and if you ask any department that works with her, she is very helpful, very collaborative, and she does really high quality work. And we would love to keep her as an employee, but because she's moving out of state, we checked into that and we cannot keep her as an employee. And so we really figured that this is the next best option. And you know, and with this too, she would, if this contract were approved, she would continue to be working as an integral part of our team. We would make sure that like she knows what to do in the coming years. That was actually included in the work there in the resolution. She would be submitting monthly reports and like the progress and those types of things, and those would continue to be in my CMR reports as they are now with her GIS status of what she's working on. And we're not, like, you know, this contract, it's still like significantly cheaper, but we know it's out there, what would be charged for the same type of work. And I would actually say lesser quality work. We were paying higher dollar for lesser quality work. So anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions in regard to that.
I have a quick one. The former, before Selena, the former GIS people that we hired, were they living here, or were they remote? They were
remote. They were in Seattle, and there's one that was in Soldotna.
Right. I have to say that's what my son did, was GIS, not for the city, but he worked here and had an outfit in Anchorage, so that's how these things work. So. Questions for Jason? Okay, Councilmember Finch.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So would her position in that department be filled with somebody else, or would it go away? And could you, for the public, tell roughly what the average cost is of what she's trying to do, to give a price comparison? You know, I mean, is it like $200 to $300 per se an hour normally compared to what this is set up?
Yeah, so the way we would do is, because we do need to keep that, we would, and I guess just to explain it to you, this level of maturity that her position was growing into, like really she's doing work she works in the community development department, but really she's working for all departments. And so even though she's kind of coming out of our budget, she's really contributing a lot to like public works and types of these things. So it's really kind of becoming more of a general fund expense. And so we would just contract out for that GIS, but then we would, for PERS, we would retain our admin position, which we actually still do need an admin, but it made more sense for us to be able to do this. And she was doing some side admin work, but that was kind of becoming, with all of her GIS work that she needed to do, that was becoming a little bit of a strain for her to keep going on these projects and still be like helping Courtney and I out. And so we would be still kind of maintaining on record and want that admin position for the department. And then, but if we look back on the records to answer your question about cost, like Flow Analytics was charging us $220 an hour for that work. And they're a very large GIS organization, and that's kind of their going rate. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's spendy. The smaller kind of outfits, even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was looking back at the historical records, they were charging us $90 an hour. And so that kind of, for smaller individual people, they're charging $110, $130. Then the big commercial organizations are charging $220 an hour. So
I just wanted to, but I would like to first say thank you. You do amazing work. I'm very impressed with it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And it was Councilmember Calhoun that asked to take it off the
Yes,
consent
Madam Mayor,
agenda,
I
so
did,
I
and-
should have called on you.
Well, that's okay. Pretty much the reason that I did that has been stated and taken care of. It had nothing to do with Selena. She's done a great job. But I wanted the public to know why this was coming forward, because I had been questioned about why we were going to do that. And that's the reason that I pulled that off. And I think Jason has given a great explanation of all that.
And I appreciate you doing that, because I had asked these questions earlier, because so everyone needs to understand this. I think we're getting a really good deal, and I just love what you've done with the cemeteries, of course. Any other comments, questions? Okay, I think, Mr. Clerk, I think we're ready to vote on this.
Okay. Voting on the approval of Resolution 2023-095. Calhoun?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
Okay, thank you, which moves us now all the way to other new business, unless I'm mistaken. And the one item, it's under other new business, is Seward City Tours request to purchase property. And you can find information on page 294. And I guess I'm going to ask administration to speak to this first.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll let Stephen talk about it. He was working on this project with.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is an item that has been discussed for, since June of 2022. So Jonah and Yen had approached me this past summer and to talk about interest in this specific parcel. And as a outcome of that, the city had an appraisal conducted by McSwain and Associates. We're talking about approximately 1.4 acres that's bordered on the north by Sea Lion, Seward Highway on the east, and Diamond Boulevard on the west. So it's kind of a wedge-shaped parcel over there. Fair market value for the 1.4 acres is $290,000. I guess I was hoping the council could suspend the rules so that we could ask Mr. Swiderski to join us for a conversation directly with council. Jonah can probably speak to the need and their intent for the usage of that property better than I. I guess the only other thing that I would point out too is that the municipal land plan is pretty vague with regards to the use of this property. It basically says either retain for a city purpose or sell with a sound development plan, which Mr. Swiderski can speak to. The city does not have a specific project that we have had council weigh in on and determine for this property. And therefore what administration is requesting is direction on council if you wish for a resolution to come back before you. So whatever you decide on tonight is not going to be whether to sell or not sell, but rather whether you wish for a resolution to come back for you to vote on the sale. And if we may suspend the rules.
Yeah, is everyone okay with suspending rules? I see lots of nods. So Jonah, you can come up and speak to this a bit. You might introduce yourself in case there's somebody up here that doesn't know you.
My name is Jonah. I'm Jonah Swiderski, outside of city limits. And you're just looking for kind of reiteration of the letter?
Just
Yeah, if you could speak to the intended use.
yeah, what you're planning to.
To get to that, I guess I would just start back in June of last year. As our business has grown and the need for our services has increased, it's become impossible to meet that expanding demand without creating more infrastructure, both to maintenance services and housing for employees. And so we've been on a hunt for years, and last June we reached out to the city asking for any input on if there was any city land that they thought might be of interest to our needs. And this parcel came up as a suggestion. From my understanding at that time, there had been little to no interest in that piece of property. That might be completely incorrect, but that was my understanding. And that's why we pursued the assessment it was conducted, and unfortunately, we needed a little bit more time to grow, if you will, to pursue something like this. And so we were now in a position that we felt that we could execute on something like this. So we revisited Jason and Stephen with the city about it, and they did share that there had been an increase in interest in it. Again, my understanding was that the city had voted against a set aside of that land, and so there was not seemingly a pressing need to hold on to that property. There's excellent support for a rec center for our city. That is a must. I have no desire to derail that quest. And if this property is crucial to that, then by all means, we need to lock that in. But as I understood it, that was not the decision of the city. And so we were just revisiting something that we had started last year. We would like to put on a facility that would allow us to do our maintenance, allow us to do, currently we have short-term leases, we're working in dirt lots, and there's puddles from the rain, and it's a difficult process. And in order for us to continue to offer the quality of services to our private sector clients, we also need those same services to meet the requirements of the demand from our existing contracts with the city and whatnot. It will not change how we operate and the quality of services that we offer as far as meeting those needs of our existing contracts. This has more to do with the future of our business and what we can do if we're able to secure the appropriate lands and whatnot. This was a piece of property that was very suitable, it had the right size, it had the infrastructure in the vicinity, and we have had options of pursuing properties outside of city limits that are more in residential areas, and we've just never felt it was an appropriate use of that land to have buses, commercial vehicles driving through neighborhoods to get to that land. And so this was an opportunity to be in the vicinity of the Public Works, what is?
Electric.
The electric department and future Public Works possibly, west of this piece of property. So this is a piece of property they would use for those maintenance services. It would be a property we would be adding employee housing to so that we can find the right employees, retain good employees that are not struggling to, with the struggles that we're all dealing with in Seward with our housing situation and whatnot. So this is the next step for our business, and it was because of our continued work with the city and the future work that we're eager to accomplish that we were asking for this to be considered.
Okay. With that, Council, how we can discuss this. What we need to come up with tonight, or we should, is whether to direct council or to direct administration to bring a resolution to us to vote on this, or we don't want to direct. So what are your thoughts, questions? Councilmember Finch.
I'm all for it, Madam Mayor. I mean, it's going to be, he's trying to grow someplace for more housing, which will also help grow his business and help grow the city. Am I wrong?
No, you're correct.
I have, when I saw this at first, I wanted to hear from council particularly, and even if we direct, we'll still be hearing again. But what we have here is in my mind, for years and years, the city hasn't sold property, and all of a sudden we're selling property. And I want to hear from people, is this what the people are, the representatives of the people and the people want? I mean, I think it's a really good idea, but just throwing that in there, I had a bit of heartburn just selling more property, because we've sold to Chugachmute now, and you could look at it like that property hasn't ever been used. I mean, it's something to really consider, the implications, I guess. I'm just throwing that out there. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So my question was, other than taking Diamond Boulevard out and making a a rec center there. I mean, is that even a big enough spot for any of this public works building or anything like that that we're looking at in our future development?
With public safety, is that what you're
That's
saying?
right, yeah. It's like
So, and that's, could have been one of the things that we talked about when Taryn was here, but, and not to get out ahead of that process, but if we did a combined public safety facility, the remaining of what we could call the North Fort Raymond parcel that would border Sea Lion to the north is sufficient for a combined facility, including all the parking requirements, and that would be if it's one level. You could go 2 levels, but selling this piece of property would not preclude us from using that remainder of Fort Raymond for a public safety facility.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was a good question. Councilmember Finch.
The new tsunami map, my concern about doing that or a community center there is we're right on, our public works, our fire department would all be in the tsunami. And I would really like to see in an emergency, the fire department, the police, and, be able to get to their stuff and not wade through water. So I don't think it would be a good spot for that, with our new tsunami layout diagram that just came out with last year.
Okay, but
To be frank, the updated tsunami map, the entirety of, essentially the entirety of city limits
and beyond.
is in, and beyond, up
Yeah.
to Barrel Lake is.
That's worst case scenario too, though, by the way, worst case scenario.
But this little portion was not where we're thinking about any of these facilities, right? The public works or whatever.
Like I said, the Muni land plans does not, as reviewed by P and Z and adopted by council, does not have a specific project determined for this site. It says either retain for city purposes if there's a project, or sell with a sound development plan.
Oh,
So it's really a
that's
policy
what it
decision
is.
for council.
Okay, Councilmember Dumas.
And so I just want to go back to the community center and confirm that council never gave direction to move further with it. We chose to put it to a halt, not pick a piece of land, not move forward. We have chosen to move forward with a public needs assessment. So the rec center is a completely separate discussion. And in my opinion, I don't think that we should hold on to this piece of land because it could potentially be for maybe a rec center or maybe something else that someone wants to do at some point. And because according to the Muni land plan, selling city land with a sound development plan. I mean, this just makes perfect sense to me. Especially with our partnership currently with Seward City Tours, or the shuttle, and the 2 extensions that we hope that they'll take and provide. So that's right.
Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, I'm really conflicted on this. Not that I don't want to support your business. I think we're all agreed on that. For a couple of reasons. One, I always go back to the comprehensive and strategic plan that I really think we need to get our heads around that before we make big decisions like this. Personally, I just think we need to have a clear vision. I also agree that the rec centers, we really need to keep that forefront. It's one of our goals on our comprehensive plan. Strategic too now, or I can't remember. It's definitely one of the 6, I think, goals. But I don't think the rec center at that spot is actually a good site. It's really busy corner. It's pretty dang small. Certainly not big enough for fire or police for 25,000 square foot buildings. And I don't think the rec center. That's going to be a really busy spot because you have the electric, you have public works. Yeah, you're going to have a lot going on there, and then access out onto the highway is going to be tough. And I like the idea that your business is primarily, I would imagine, 80–90% summer, so you're not conflicting with traffic from the schools for the most part, which is nice. So I'm conflicted, but we're not voting on selling. We're just voting on
to move ahead potentially.
Right.
So let me just say, what I'd ask for is a motion to direct.
Madam Mayor, you
Yes.
might want to go back on the record for, I mean, could you?
Oh, I'm
suspend the
sorry, we've
rules?
still got in here, yeah, okay. Any more questions for, yeah, okay, Councilmember Finch, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Swiderski, how many staff would possibly be housed there, let's say year-round? And would you be able to go from a summertime business into a possibly year-round business?
No, that's an excellent question. Over the past 2 years, we have found ourselves to be doing more and more work in the wintertime. You are correct, Councilmember Barnwell, that 80 to 90%. Probably now it's 90% is in the summertime. There will always be a lopsided scale on that. I mean, summertime is our busy time. There is talk working with Seward Prevention Coalition, yes, thank you, as well as some other entities in town on providing additional services through the wintertime to give citizens of Seward access to necessary infrastructure in town, from grocery store to hospital, all sorts of different things like that. And with the road conditions in the wintertime, the difficulty of keeping safe sidewalks, I think that that is a very good use of funds to provide that for those who are going to be reliant on their own feet to get themselves to the pharmacy and whatnot. So there will be more work in the winter time. As far as the number of employees, in those last couple of years, we've been able to keep at least 3, if not 4 employees through the winter. We would like that to grow, of course. We're looking at, well, we would love to put in a huge housing, employee housing, but we'll be looking for a minimum of 6 units, ideally 8. This would be a property that we could likely add more as we hope to grow.
Okay, so any other questions for Mr. Swiderski? Okay, so we'll go back into formal council mode now. I guess we had suspended, it was so interesting that I forgot we'd suspended it. Okay, so what we would ask for then, I think, is a motion to direct administration to come back with a resolution to do this. A motion and a second, and we'll vote just to make it official. Is that what you're requesting?
Yes, and one thing I would point out, if you do direct administration to do so, the next step in the process will be to work probably with Sam and Seward City Tours on developing a purchase and sale agreement. And because this resolution will require a public hearing, we'd probably be looking at, I'm gonna guess, the end of September.
Yeah,
The
it
second
won't be
meeting in
next
September
meeting,
before that
yeah.
would come back.
Yeah, okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do you want to state it?
I'd make that motion, you state
Okay,
it.
so Vice Mayor Osenga is moving to direct administration to come back with a resolution to involving Seward City Tours' request to purchase that property. And we know what property it is. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any more discussion? We can have a vote on that. Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick thing for people to understand. This is just simply one step in the process. As people may remember, I was the one that tried to get us to hold on to the property we were looking at for the rec camp, but that didn't really include this little piece.
Right.
And with what else we've got going on for a rec camp to move into that, or rec facility to move into that, we would have to vacate that part of Diamond, based on what they showed us and
Right.
possibilities. And I don't think we really want to do that with the other things that we've got going on there to get rid of that access. So, but again, this will simply give people now a chance at public hearing to talk about what they think. So it's always good to look at ideas.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Mr. Clerk, we're ready to vote on that.
I'm just going to read the motion for the
Please.
record and correct me if I have this wrong, and I can reread it. So the motion is to direct administration to come back with a resolution to sell the property to Seward City Tours.
Pretty much that.
That's,
Purchase and sale.
I thought it was
Or
going
purchase agreement?
Purchase and sale agreement.
Purchase and sale.
Purchase and sale.
Yeah.
Okay. And the second agrees? Okay.
Sorry, what was that?
The second agrees with that.
Oh, okay, second agrees.
Okay, so,
Okay, ready to vote? Calhoun,
Yes.
Barnwell,
Yes.
Finch,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
and Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, that motion is passed.
All right. That'll give people something to think about in the upcoming weeks. So we have more informational items and reports. What we have is the Planning and Zoning June 6th meeting minutes there. And this brings us down to citizen comments. And this is the 5-minute section at the end of the meeting, near the end of the meeting. So there's no sign-in for this. You get 5 minutes each. And if you want, just come on up, Kevin.
Kevin Dunham, outside city limits. And first, I'd like to apologize to you. I sort of lost it again, and my wife admonished me before I came today. Please try to keep it nice, and I have a hard time doing that because I care. And why do I care? My entire career was 40-plus years in the power industry. I know all the players. Tony Itzo, John Burns at Golden Valley, Arthur Miller, Brad Janorski. I pretty much know all of them from different functions that I've done over the years, and maybe why I'm the way I am. I worked for 40 years. I never worked in a room with a window. We were secure at every place I ever worked. So I worked with these companies. And then afterwards, I started my own company called Power Systems Coordination and Switching Specialties. So my whole career was how to make the power systems work together and coordinate with each other. The way the power system works, there's only one system. Something that happens in Fairbanks is felt in the Homer system within 1/10 of a second, or maybe even 1/100th of a second. They have to work together. When they sell power between companies, you're only allowed to sell power from 5 minutes till the hour to 5 minutes after. You ramp your generators down if you're going to buy, and then the other person you're buying from ramps their generators up. So just a little story about Homer. I worked for them to help them when they broke away from Chugach in 2013. And I helped them set up their power coordination and dispatch center. What they did, one of the first things they did was they went into the Soldotna substation, which they own, and Chugach did all their power for them prior to that. Homer, for some reason, did not want to get along with the other power companies at that time. They actually went in and disconnected all of Chugach's metering equipment. Chugach controlled the Bradley Lake project, which has two 115 transmission lines that run through Homer territory into the Soldotna substation and then back out the other side to head towards Anchorage and Seward. Made Chugach's job almost impossible. At the time, ArcTech was going, and my dad was on it, representing Seward. And the whole point of ArcTech was to get the 5 power companies to coordinate together. Okay? The industry standard throughout the United States, there's 3 power systems in the United States. I don't know if any of you knew that. There's the Eastern Interconnect, which is the largest machine in the world. It's a single machine that includes Florida all the way to the Midwest. Then, for some reason, Texas, ERCOT, is on their own. So you remember a few years ago when they had the big, huge problems, Texas decided they would not have AC transmission lines running into their territory from other places. They couldn't buy from the other states. Instead, they collapsed. And then there's the Western Interconnect. And this includes a lot of Canada also. I just want to bring up that one story. And I like Brad Janorski a lot. He's a great guy, but he has had some bad advisors over the years. And what they did was almost criminal. So remember, the power has to be only adjusted in a 10-minute period. It's called the ramp. When you change power flowing through any substation or from one utility to another. That made that job so impossible that what are called inadvertent flows happen then. As people change their loads without the metering right in the center of the system, then you get either more power or less power than what you expected when people are changing their generation. It's just not good operating practice, and Brad should have known that, you know, and I could talk to him about the fellow that actually was the cause of that, but Brad allowed it. And I wanted to tell you that throughout my career, 40 years, 42 years, Chugach, Golden Valley, and ML&P basically set the bar for coordination, for keeping the power on, including system security and cybersecurity. This resolution says that Homer is one of the leaders in cybersecurity. That is not true. I'm sorry, but I just know it to be a fact. So yeah, I apologize for being emotional, but to me, this is a very, very emotional, important thing.
Got it. Go on.
Hi, my name is Kat Sorensen and I live inside city limits. I want to first say thank you for approving our contract. I am beyond excited and grateful for this opportunity to serve Seward as their city manager. I also want to take a minute to thank Norm Regis for taking on the role of acting and balancing everything from a city council meeting to stuck plumbing. I know it's a big job and he's been doing really well at it. I also want to say that as I transition out of my last days as the executive director of the Seward Chamber of Commerce, the board is working hard to hire somebody new. They have a lot of applications in and are working on that process, and I know that they'll make a great choice to continue the hard work of the Seward Chamber. I also know the strength of our current team, and I'm excited to see their continued growth in their role as a local chamber and the destination marketing organization for the city of Seward. And with that, I would also be remiss if I didn't mention a few more sponsors for the Salmon Derby, so I do apologize. Urbox Clothing is continuing to sponsor 2 gift cards for the 9th and 10th place fish, and Sailing Inc. is continuing their tradition of sponsoring $100 for the largest fish caught from a sailboat, and then the Seward Outdoor Store is sponsoring a prize for the largest fish caught from a kayak. So a lot of really cool ways to win. So thank you again for approving the contract and sponsoring the Salmon Derby and generally all your hard work. I appreciate it and look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Skip Ryerson, inside city limits. As some of you may recall, 2 years ago, I entered back into the political arena, but as a citizen, an active citizen, to help the community who was without a finance director for 3 years prior, fathom their way, waged through the electrical infrastructure project, and then you had an upcoming budget just shortly after that. So I lent a helping hand. Behind the scenes, I worked tirelessly, countless hours, helped the administration as best as I could, and of recent, we had a public work session. Thank you very much, Mayor, for bringing back the work session. In preparation of that work session, I submitted 2 one-page reports and a brief email explanation to those reports to assist with some funding solutions or ideas if we came to the point where we were going to come up with some deliverables to start working on off of that Public Works strategic list. Needless that I know that my efforts were going to be unappreciated. Matter of fact, it was disrespectful to some degree to be basically told that you don't have time to read anything that I send you in a one-page report, and that only give you a terse email or a text in a paragraph or less. So with that, I understand. I learned quickly, so I'll refrain from sending council future type documents. What I will do, though, going forward is I will now have my voice at the dais, and this is mainly more for the public to understand some of the things that I've learned about your city finances and suggestions for hopefully for council to move forward. The MRF fund document that I sent to you was an indication that for 7 years we have not funded any major repair or replacement fund projects out of the MRF funds. No funding has gone in those. It's a great way to reduce your budget to save to save the budget, but you're not putting anything back in for the rainy day. The major acquisition fund, capital acquisition fund, is technically known as the general fund's MRF fund. Unfortunately, you spent all of that on the DRP program for the Hilltop project. What was left was about $500,000, and of that, $350,000 is supposed to be earmarked for sidewalks. We haven't done any work on sidewalks. That fund hasn't changed for over a year. Yet, the Public Works Director doesn't know that he's got $350,000 of more money that needs to come out of the capital fund. Take that $350 out, you're left with $200. And at that point, you just found out that you don't even have enough to replace the boilers at the library. The point being is that you have a mid-cycle budget session coming up here somewhere along the way. We're past the mid-budget cycle, but I strongly urge you to consider putting some MRF funds back in. To that point, electric MRF fund, $450,000 a year was put into that MRF fund. 7 years, you do the math. You come up with a sizable amount of money to help pay for that infrastructure project. Speaking of the infrastructure project, I asked you before to consider paying back the loan that the electric fund paid for the losses over at SMIC to the tune of $1 million. I think, it's long overdue. You need to fund that program, and let's get that project on a good, strong footing financially. While I appreciate, it's always fun to work on new projects, the public works, the fire, the police facilities, those are all great projects. It's always fun to work on new things. Who wants to work on old stuff, But if we don't get these sewer lines and these water lines replaced in this town, mark my words, you're going to have a crisis. We'll be back talking about it 5 years from now. The sky is falling. The sewer lines are going out. I don't care how many more sewer lines you put up on Hilltop. That crap's got to come through this crap. So let's get ahead of the curve. And probably in my lifetime, I told you this before, we're probably going to need a new sewer lagoon. So we're talking about selling property. Better be looking for more property to put a sewer lagoon in town, because it's probably only a matter of time before the road out to Low Point blows out that sewer line, and then what are you going to do at that point? So, other than that, just wanted to share a couple things for the community, let them know what the MRF funds are all about. Let's get moving on some funding for that, and good luck. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Who else wants to speak? Anyone else?
Becky Dunn, Inside the City. I wanted to bring awareness to a program. It's called STAR, Sexual Trauma Prevention Response. It's a program that has, it's for the state of Alaska. It's in Anchorage, and it's been around since 1978. All services are free. And they put out this packet that's very informative, have a really nice website, hotline, and again, all their services are free. Neither the trooper station or the police station had any of this or had heard of the STAR program. This is a huge program that anybody involved in dealing with rape victims should know about. And I don't fault the officer or the trooper for not knowing. They should have been trained or should have had these. They were right next door from the trooper's office at the the place that loans you extra body parts, Independent Living Center. They had them. But again, all these services are free, and so STAR is pretty easy to remember. They have an awesome website. It's easy to find. And now going to, I'm looking at the timer. 5 minutes at the end of the meeting is a long time to speak, because whatever's happened that you're going to speak with at the beginning of the meeting has already happened. I would kind of like to see it switch to 3 minutes after the meeting, because by now you all just want to go home. And public, I kind of would like to see the 3 and 5 minute thing maybe switched, or anyway, just an idea, and other people have mentioned that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Anyone else wishing to speak? Last chance. Okay, Then we'll move to council and administration comments and responses to citizen comments. Acting City Manager Regis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank everybody that came and speak tonight, and also congratulate Kat on her agreement being approved, and the funds for Japanese Creek. I know it was passed on consent, but that was a big thing, getting the funds back from the borough, so that was a nice, we just got an email that says, hey, get money coming your way, check is in the mail, that's what we got, so that was kind of nice that happened. And I think also we got some funds coming back from the slide, from FEMA. We got a lot of our money coming back. So I don't know when, but it's coming back soon. So it's a lot of nice things going on. That's all I got. Thanks.
Assistant City Manager.
Got a lot of to-do list items as always from a council meeting, but at the top of the list, I'll be reaching out to Providence tomorrow morning to see what their availability is for scheduling a work session to talk about their services. And as always, thanks for a good, vibrant discussion and a good meeting tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with Councilmember Barnwell.
I have a few things. One, I really appreciate the police being candid with us and their needs, and I really think we as a group need to attend to this. I think as a city, it's imperative that we give them back for what they've provided to us. I just think we just have to take care of them. I want to make sure the public knows that we have not given up on the rec center. It's a huge priority for the city, and we're not backing away from that. It's just we're just considering options here, so I want people to realize that. Thank you, Mr. Dunham, for giving us information on the electrical. It's a really confusing topic. You've got a lot of experience, and we really appreciate your feedback. I really hope the ad hoc can get us some information before that election and get it out there so that we can have these conversations and figure out what the heck we're going to do going forward. And then finally, don't forget the 26th, it's fish, not fry, barbecue and potluck for the Japanese group coming in, and they'll be here for our city council meeting on the 28th.
Yes.
28th. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Finch.
I'd like to thank everybody that showed up and talked about things, and Mr. Dunham. I learned something tonight about the electric company across the country that I'd like to see, the officers for the SPD, things get better, but I also like to see a reserve police department program created, because most police departments have a reserve. We still have 2 officers that work in different departments that could be on the reserve. I'm just curious as to why we don't have that. That'd be something we need to look into. The STAR program that Ms. Dunn mentioned, I think the city should really be looking into something like that. I'm interested in seeing where all that can go. And I hope there's a big fish caught for the silver turtle.
Thank you. Councilmember Tomas.
I wanted to congratulate Suli on her new finance director position, and thank you for hanging on for so long, and congratulations on graduating and the new position. And I also wanted to thank our clerk, Chris, and Councilmember Bardwell for taking on the exchange program and hosting everybody and showing them a good time. I'd like to congratulate Kat on her contract with the city, and very excited for you to get in here. And I also think that we should discuss as a council maybe a work session or something in the future about the needs for the police department, considering that's an emergency service and should probably be looked at, because I also did notice that on the manager report that we're short 3 patrol officers right now, so down to 4, that's only 4 people. It's not very many people. So that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Okay. Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not a lot. I won't repeat what everybody else has said. All good comments. I do want to thank Mr. Ryerson for his continued efforts to educate not only us, but the community on some of the financial things that we have going on that we probably need to take a look at and get some of that stuff taken care of and tightened up a little bit. I appreciate that. And the thought about, do we have a mid-budget session coming up?
That's a good question.
In January.
In January? Okay, thank you. And that's all I have, thanks.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Congratulations to our new finance director. Hopefully, it'll go well and everything just starts going smoothly, better, I guess I should say. Kat, welcome. And I too, I'm hoping for some great fishing weather and hopefully some great, good-sized fish get caught. Happy Salmon Derby.
Okay, well, all that. Congratulations on Finance Director and congratulations to Kat. I also wanted to say about the chamber that I think there's more postings on your on Facebook now of every day what fish has been caught, and it saves me from going down and checking it every day, so I appreciate those posts. It's good to see something good on Facebook too. So Rhonda, I think everyone knows this, but public school starts tomorrow. So you'll be seeing buses, I'll be running into Councilmember Finch picking up grandchildren and all that kind of stuff. It begins already. And I want to re-emphasize Founder's Day is the 28th, and 11 to 2 at the museum and at the library. We'll be there with cake and lots of history stuff. And you'll get to see some of Seward's historical people there too, like me, for example. So, and this was a good meeting. We covered a lot of wide-ranging topics as usual. It's a lot that we do. And with that, at 9:28, I will adjourn.